We are in for a treatment to break down your mental fortitude, really bring you to the next level of mentally, physically, and have your life be excellent for 2025 with none of the amazing Michele Schalin. She is a huge powerhouse here in Austin, Texas, who's changing lives every single day. You don't want to miss her talk. And also, the whole mindful metamorphosis as well. She designed and made her book, so much more. This is going to change your life more than you know. So make sure you stay tuned for this talk with Michele. Again, my real estate team has done $1.5 billion in volume. I've seen all kinds of people from all walks of life. And Michele is next level than elite. So welcome to the Elite Edge podcast with our special guest, Michele. Thanks for being here.
Thank you. Wow, what a lead up. I'm quite honored. Thank you so much.
Of
Thank
course, happy to have you here. So I know I kind of broke down a little bit about who you are, your books, your philosophies. You want to add more context to that for people who are watching
you.
this?
Straightening out my little So yeah, I mean, my philosophy is, personal transformation comes from emotional healing and just being dedicated and motivated and dedicated to practices in your life to
Mhm.
help you with learning to have more control over your thoughts, process your emotional feelings, and get more resilience, emotional resilience and awareness in the climate that we're living in, which is really, really challenging for our brain and our bodies. A lot of people, we just try to go forward and move forward and adapt, but it's quite challenging. And as we know, especially in the last 5 years, there's a lot of side effects of people suffering physically and emotionally from toddler to senior.
Yeah.
There's no discrimination, and so I help my clients, and I help anybody. I mean, they don't have to be my clients. I have a YouTube channel where I share lots of information for free, and on my Facebook group and everything, to help develop mental fitness, a mental fitness belief system, like you do around physical fitness.
Hmm.
And once you understand the science, which is not complicated, I mean, I lay it out in layman terms, then just like physical fitness, you understand the science around it, right? You're more motivated and dedicated to apply these practices in your life, scientifically proven practices. If you don't understand how they work and you don't believe they work, then you don't do it.
Hmm.
You know, I mean, physical fitness didn't really get solid in our culture until the 80s.
Yeah.
I mean, it started in the late 60s, 70s, but it wasn't until the 80s with Richard Simmons and Jane Fonda. I mean, I was all into that. I was a fitness instructor. I was into that, the leg warmers and the whole deal. And it wasn't until then that it was a solid practice in our culture. You did it or you were guilty if you didn't do it.
Mm.
But we don't have that yet as the majority in our culture with mental fitness. We will because it's scientifically proven it works, and people will need it, more and more as technology progresses even more.
Mm-hmm. If
So,
you help, I have no doubt be there before we know it too. And
yeah.
have you always been like passionate about, mental fitness and this kind of philosophy?
No. um, I I before was challenged with a lot of anxiety. I didn't know what it was because 10 years ago we didn't talk about it. Okay. This is not common knowledge until more recently, and now it's an everyday discussion with
Mm-hmm.
a lot of people, right? We never talked about this before. And so I didn't know what it was. And I didn't know how to process my feelings well because I wasn't taught. And so I stuffed a lot of things, like a lot of people. And I worked a lot and I was busy a lot, and I didn't understand. I didn't have enough consciousness and awareness to understand why I created a life like that, you know. And I mean, it was my culture, it was my upbringing, and so I worked and I was busy a lot, and I used exercise to like push out this energy I created with the anxiety, and I didn't really know what I was doing. And so even though I have 26 years of experience in 12-step communities. I helped a lot of people with, and healing trauma and addiction and that. And I grew from that, but I didn't understand mental fitness back then. I mean, it wasn't talked about.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't until I started meditating, which was about 11 years ago, after I had a back surgery that forced me to be still.
Oh, wow.
Okay, forced me after being a fitness queen for like 3 decades, 3 decades. And so that is what opened up my world and absolutely changed. And that got me into studying how the brain, the thoughts, all your thoughts can make you sick. How they can affect your, I mean, you produce cortisol and adrenaline. And if you're negative thinking, stressful thinking, anxiety all the time, regularly, like a lot of people are, you're simply suppressing your immune system. I mean, that is a scientific fact. The health community, the health industry has known this for years. They actually inject cortisol into organ recipients, so the body won't reject the organ.
Wow.
Okay, a lot of people don't know this, and so over time, you're suppressing your immune system. So that's what I did, and I had a breakdown in ligaments and disc collapse, and that's what we're doing, and we don't even know our own behavior is doing it. And with the overstimulation and the addictions that everyone has now. I mean, there's no oh, I don't know if I have an addiction. I'll take away your phone and internet. That's right, the phone, number one, internet, TV, and you tell me you don't have an addiction. Okay. And we're talking, from toddlers all the way to seniors, like I said. I mean, you know how you see a lot of people using, and I don't know if you have this behavior, but using screens and phones and stuff to preoccupy their children when they're babies and toddlers. Good, don't do it, because I'm serious. They're damaging their child's developing brain and they don't even realize it. There is science around this where they scan the brains and they see brain damage. And one of the things I share in my book, I can share all these resources that I'm going to be talking about with you now in my book.
Perfect.
And one of the things, I remember when I was starting to write the book, I had friends that had toddlers, and they would tell me like, "Oh my God, if I take away the phone or the iPad, they throw such a tantrum. It's mind blowing." And I said, "Well, yeah, I didn't doubt it, but I hadn't seen it yet." And in the course of writing my book, I saw this documentary. It's called, I said, 60 Minutes in Australia, Internet Addiction with Toddlers. Wow. And you will see heartbreaking footage of parents filming their kids, I'm sure, to show their doctors, of these kids. I mean, like they were crack addicts.
Yeah.
I mean, one was like hitting his head against a wall, screaming that he wanted his iPad back, So it's serious stuff. And it's, and there's also a new book called The Anxious Generation.
I've seen that.
Okay. I haven't read it, but I watched, podcasts and interviews with the man, Jonathan Haidt, I don't know how to pronounce his last name, he's a psychologist. And I have a chapter in my book, Our Relationship with Technology. And everything he was saying, I was like, yes, 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 yes. There's also a great documentary called The Social Dilemma. Have you seen it?
Yep.
Great. I tell everybody to see that one. So there's going to be a lot more about it. I have a love-hate relationship with technology. Okay. I have my website services company. It's 20 years old. I've been a pioneer in it all this time. But it's so funny too, because when I talk about it, especially younger men, like 20 to maybe 35, they'll come to defense right away. Oh, but so yeah. I'm not saying it doesn't have a lot of great things. Yes, look what we're doing. Okay, this is technology. It's amazing. Okay, but look at the whole picture. You need to look at the whole picture, because if you don't understand how it's affecting you and how the toxic messaging from our culture affects us, then you don't understand. You think you're crazy and what's wrong with me, and you don't know what the whole picture of what you're dealing with. You know what I mean? So,
it definitely, I think, is one of the biggest addictions in the world, more than like sugar almost. It's probably number one. But outside of that, it's the biggest addiction now. I think the average American uses social media for 2.5 hours a day. It's insane. 2.5 hours a day out of 16 hours.
It's incredible. There's another, I remember I watched a little documentary about this too. It's so intense. It's affecting children, teenagers, young adults so intensely, I mean, mental illness, suicide thoughts, depression, anxiety, all kinds of stuff. These poor children. And there are camps now, summer camps, where a teenager that's experiencing all these problems can go, but it's no technology. Okay. And they're in a camp for months, a couple of months, and they're in nature and they're in community and they're away from technology. And a lot of times the first 2 weeks, they can't handle it and they leave. But the ones that break through and they get to the third week, they see amazing difference in how they feel.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, they have to go back into this modern world with technology. They can't stay away from it. It's not, it's not.
Yeah.
You have to function in it now. But at least they saw, and now they have awareness that, wow, my behavior around this is what was causing the issues.
Yeah.
And so, if they get stuck back into that behavior, they know that they can pull out of it again, and they know what to do. You know what I mean? But if they don't have the awareness and they never had that break, they don't understand.
Yeah, I love that. I know for me, like, social media is super addicting, and I'm a grown up, and I still know how bad it is.
Of course, it's like because it hijacks your brain.
Mm-hmm.
You're like, I'm going to scroll on Instagram for 15 minutes, and then an hour later,
all the time.
I mean, I am so aware of it now that when I start to feel that grab on my brain, I'm like, and I like throw the phone away. I'm like, stop it. But it produces so much dopamine in your brain that it increases your threshold of dopamine. So now normal activities that you used to find enjoyable are more boring.
Yeah.
That's why, remember, before the phones, if you were waiting for someone at a restaurant, you would just kind of look around and look at, people, and you would just be present in your situation. Do you do that now? No, you get on the phone almost all the time, right? Yep. I mean, I'm not immune to it. I have to really stop, put the phone down, Michelle, look around, not to mention the preoccupation that people have, with it when they're driving and how dangerous that is. I mean, there's a lot of aspects to it.
It is definitely great for me to have safeguard my sanity. I have an app called Refocus.
Okay.
You can see it?
Yeah.
Refocus, and also Screen Zen. That blocks all my social media apps.
Oh, nice.
Use it. As I
okay.
say,
I stopped. Yeah, that's great. I stopped putting no notifications at all. A text are the only thing that shows up, and it's just a number. It doesn't have no sounds.
Nice.
I remember when I first got it, I'm like, I'll do a bird chirping. Oh, that's so cute. You know what I mean? But then I started, I was like, this is like making, that's how they created it. So you'll go back and back and back, Yeah. It's very insidious. It's very important. It's very important to have structure around this. Very important.
And then speaking of structure, Melanie asked, how do you raise kids that aren't addicted to, but also are able to live functions in the world without technology is necessary?
Yeah. I mean, you just have to, I know it's hard. I can only imagine, my children were teenagers, like 15 and 17 when flip phones came out. Okay. So I didn't have to deal with that. And I really, really sympathize with parents and teachers that have to, you just have to you got to be strong, and you got to give them rules. I mean, I was watching an interview with Ashton Kutcher, who has small children. And he, he was one of the first people on Twitter.
Yeah.
And I've listened to other, Gabor Mate is another one who talks about don't even let your kids get on this until they're older. In fact, Australia has a new law just like several months ago. It's illegal to have children on social media before 16.
Wow.
Yep. And France has outlawed the most recent iPhone because the radiation is too high for the requirements. Okay. So you just, I mean, Ashton Kutcher was talking about he doesn't let his kids on social media right now. They're younger. They're not teenagers yet. And they asked him, are you going to? He's like, it depends how it moves along. Okay, we'll see. Now that Facebook is not fact checking anymore, yeah. So, but no, don't have. I mean, if it was me, I know it's difficult because they'll push back because their friends get to do it and everything. Can't control what they're going to see because they can see with their friends.
Yeah,
and you need to just educate them the best you can, but have rules in the house where no phone at the table when you're eating. Only have devices in public places in the house. Don't let them have it alone in their room. I mean, think about this.
Yeah.
When the flip phones got invented, immediately I said to myself, oh my God, I just lost a lot of control. That was before any YouTube or, phones or anything. So imagine these children are in their rooms, totally unsupervised. They can talk to anybody in the world and see anything they want, and you have no idea.
Yeah.
I mean, that's really serious. Okay, so they're going to push back. But if that's the best thing you can do is educate them the most keep the devices and don't let them do that alone in the room.
Mm.
You know, it's hard. I know it's very hard.
I love that. I think it's so powerful. Even like Steve Jobs, he was like one of the biggest pioneers with phones. Even says his kids could not use the phone until like 7.
That's
So,
right.
like, it really speaks volumes of how detrimental it could be to our health. And obviously, yeah.
And for that lady that asked, the viewer that asked that, I would suggest that they watch the documentary Social Dilemma and then have a family conversation around it. And read the book or watch interviews or whatever. Read the book Anxious Generation. Okay. And be on the lookout for more of these coming up, because there'll be more. You know what I mean? And educate your family together. Then the kids will understand and don't think you're just being mean. You know.
Love that. And speaking of books, you have a book as well, which is Changing Lives Every Single Day. This is Mindful Metamorphosis. What inspired you to make that book? How does it help people? Kind of your whole thought process behind that.
So what inspired me was, like I told you, I talked about my history with 12-step communities, and I studied psychology and sociology all my life, but I didn't really get into mental fitness until I had a back surgery almost 11 years ago. That made me stay still for the first time because I couldn't do it otherwise. And I got into meditation to handle physical pain. Because I wish, in retrospect, I wish I had not had that surgery, because I still struggle with some pain. But when I got stressed out or anxious in any way, I felt the cortisol come into my body. You feel it rev up. And instead of just being a little uncomfortable in my neck and my stomach or back, it became very painful for me. And it still is. I have to be careful. That's my motivation, was physical pain. And so that's what got me. And also I was, big into fitness for years. So I had to learn how to stay fit, moving slower. And so I got into that, and that led me into reading a lot more spiritual books. I read the 4 Agreements and The Power of Now all around the same time I started doing yoga and meditation. I was living in Key West at the time.
Okay.
And a lot of things started coming up. I had grown a lot through my life with all the work I had done on myself and the self-development, but I never went inward. And we are inward beings, but we're living in an outward way of living, which causes a lot of suffering for us. We don't realize. And so many people are uncomfortable with going inward because they're overstimulated. Their brain's overstimulated. Their body's overstimulated. They're not taught how to do it. And so I started going inward. A lot of things started coming up, and I was learning through guided meditation how to process my feelings for the first time, and not push them down, not try to push through them. Same thing with anxiety, but to just let it be. It's just energy, but we treat it like it's a monster under the bed, right? And it's going to kill us or something, because it's one of the biggest challenges we have, humans, and especially in the modern world with everything that we're stimulated with, is not being totally uncomfortable with uncomfortable feelings, or discomfort with comfortable feelings, and our conditioned mind of immediate gratification, and I don't want to feel this way. And so the best way you can develop emotional resilience and learn how to control your mind and turn your thoughts around that is through meditation, which is brain training, and learning just to sit with the feeling and not push it away. It's a part of who you are. It's a part of being human. And just let that energy move through your body. Your body is like a river. It has to move through. And so I was learning all this. And then I ended up separating from my then husband of 27 years.
Wow.
Yeah. And then I moved, because a lot of what was coming up for me was very threatening to him, because it required him to work on himself and to be able to grow with me. And he couldn't. At first I was angry at him, but I understood later that he didn't have the capacity to do it. He was too afraid. And so I became the enemy. Okay. And so it became toxic for both of us, and it wasn't sustainable. So I said, we got to separate. And I went to Spain, and I went there to improve my Spanish. I lived in Valencia, Spain for 3.5 years.
Wow.
It was an incredible experience. I absolutely loved it, but it was absolutely one of the most challenging experiences I've ever had in my life. It was very, very hard. I was very alone. I mean, I was emotionally in a whirlwind. Okay. I left all my support. I left everybody. I went there alone. I was learning the language. So you can imagine all the challenges. It wasn't like I was retired and I could just hang out. No, I had to work. And so I was there for about 2 years, and I was meeting a lot of friends and improving my Spanish and everything. But it was, quite a challenging experience. It was I'd never lived in another culture before, very different, very, very different. And then COVID hit. And I don't know if you're aware, some people are like, oh, that must have been great. No, it was way worse than here. I can tell you stories that make your mouth drop about how restrictive they were. It was Italy and Spain were some of the most stricter countries in the world. And so I already had been spending a good deal of time by myself, but now it just amplified. And I was living alone in an apartment with no backyard and no balcony. And I had to stay in there for 7 weeks. And I would go to the grocery store and back a block and a half away. And during that time, I already, luckily for me, I was armed with meditation practices, breath work. I'd already been studying a lot about neuroplasticity, reprogramming your brain, everything. And I was already applying that. But now I just chose to put myself in a bubble.
Yeah.
I said, okay, this is a great opportunity. How am I going to deal with this? This is a great opportunity for me to do this and really, see how much I could grow. And so I didn't watch any movies. I didn't watch any series. I watched maybe 2 documentaries. I was teaching Spanish a little bit, teaching English to Spanish professionals. Those are the only people I was talking to. And then I was just all my input was inspirational, motivational, educational, meditational, everything.
Wow.
And I healed like crazy.
I bet.
And I had an amazing shift. And that's why on the front of my book, I should have it right here with me, is a picture of me in a cocoon coming out of with a butterfly in my back. And because I said to my friends, I feel like I came out of a cocoon. Like that's how much I feel I've changed. And I've continued that process because it's a lifetime process. You're always, you continue to grow. That's how it came. I basically, and also during this experience, I had a very, very strong, thank you,
You're welcome.
available on Amazon, English and Spanish, and Audible in my narration in English. Yeah. And on other platforms too. It's on a lot of platforms. It's in different online libraries and everything. And on Barnes and Noble, all kinds of stuff. And I went through an incredible shift. I knew that a lot of people were suffering like I was, and I knew I could help them a lot. And for the first time in my life, I had a very, very strong experience with the spirit. And I always believed that spirits were there to help us, but I just never had that kind of experience before. And it was with my mom, who had died 30 years previous. And it was absolutely beautiful. It was a presence, and it was like a soul language. I didn't hear her, I didn't see her, but I absolutely knew it was her. And it wasn't intentional. It just came to me. And it was beautiful and deep, deep, deep forgiving. And she actually gave me the message that you need to write a book and tell people about what's happening to you so you can help them. I had wanted to write a book years ago about different addictions, and I was going to call it What's Your Poison? But I never got around to a lot of people because the book is a big, big, big project.
Right.
And so I never got around to it. So that came to me. And then I was like, you're right. I got to do this. So that's how it came about. That's how my business came about and the book.
That is an incredible story. And then only imagine how much you grew, being by yourself, totally isolated, and not falling prey to the vices of social media and TV, which is how you truly grow. So that's amazing.
Yeah, it was crazy.
What?
And then it was funny because when I wrote my book, I had to balance work and writing the book. And I actually got an additional job to help me afford the publishing of the book because I'm self-published and it's very expensive. I wanted all these versions. So I got a job with a call center for the first time in my life with Progressive Insurance.
Wow. Okay.
So I was doing all of this at the same time. And I had no work balance at all. It was intense. And I felt like an imposter. It was imposter syndrome thing because I'm writing this book about balance and meditation. And I'm like, not doing well. I was like crying every night for the first 6 weeks. And I had committed this job for 6 months, And so then I was like, okay, Michele, this is the ultimate mindfulness challenge. You just got to up everything you're doing and you're going to get through this. And I did,
Now here you are. What has been your favorite success story you had so far? Your clients who have read this book or working with them.
You know, there's so many. If you type in mindful metamorphosis and you go to my Google business listing, you'll see over, like, I think it's over 120 something reviews now of people's experiences with working with me, with my overnight retreats, women retreats I do at my house for inner child healing, for the breathwork and sound healing sessions that I have regularly in the Austin and Buda area. And I do them at retreats and private sessions and that. But the thing that comes to my mind mostly is when I was during the quarantine and I decided to, I was going to write this book and I was going to build this company. And I was involved, all of Europe, not just Spain and Italy, everybody was locked down. And I was already involved with this group. It was called Internations. It's a really, really big expat networking group. And that's very, very popular all over Europe and in different Asian countries. And they were doing, in-person events all the time until the lockdown. And then everything went online. And everybody was doing all these workshops. And I was like, okay, I'm going to start doing workshops for, how dealing with what we're dealing with and showing them all the different practices and stuff they can use and teach them how to do meditation and teach them breath work and mindfulness and talk about all the things that I was learning and doing. And so I was doing it through this organization. I couldn't make any money, but it was great practice for me to get it out there and just really help as many people as I could. So that was pretty wild because I was helping hundreds and hundreds of people. I mean, maybe thousands, yeah. So, and they were very grateful because a lot of them didn't have this education. They didn't have these tools and they were really, really having a hard time.
I love that. What do you think are the easiest, or not even the easiest, the most actionable steps for people watching this right now to start the practice of fortifying the mental, fortitude and be more resilient and having that discipline and having that mental fitness you're speaking of?
Meditation is number one. Meditation is absolutely essential to get emotional resilience and get more control over your thoughts. So a lot of people don't want to hear that. Breath work, meditation, yoga, learning to be still. Now, we all do meditation and we don't even realize it. The common denominator with all the different techniques of meditation is intense focus. Okay. When I was teaching English in Spain to a lot of different professionals, I had a younger man in his 30s. He said, I really miss when I was in sports and when I was in high school, because I could totally disconnect. And I'm like, but you weren't disconnecting. You were connecting. You were focused really intensely on what you were doing, and all that chatter went in the back. Okay. He's like, oh, you're right. So that's what it is. Intent focus. It can be gardening. It can be working out. It can be dancing. It can be artistic. It can be all kinds of stuff. Okay. Intent focus. Because, especially something that brings you joy, intent focus on joy. And that is like the biggest, most important thing for your well-being. And I really, really love teaching meditation because it's an absolute superpower. It changes everything in your life, everything. Imagine you can you can calm your mind and body. You can learn after, with practice. It takes practice. It's training. Just like, the approach needs to be compassionate and loving. Most of the time, people make the mistake of approaching it with criticism and judgment of themselves. They expect it to work like that, and they get really impatient and they quit. Okay. And they have the wrong goal. A lot of times people have the goal of quieting their mind. It's not going to happen. Okay. Yeah. That's impossible. Your mind's constantly going. The goal should be focus. Your mind wanders and you refocus. That's the goal. Refocus. And that is the actual training, the wandering, refocus, the wandering, refocus. Okay. And that's like pumping up your muscle and building, working out. That's the training. And guided meditation is great for people because it gives you prompts. It's a lot easier for beginner meditations and just focus on your breath. Okay. So I've been using an app called Insight Timer for years. And it's great. And you can get a free version and you have thousands of beautiful meditations for years. Anybody wants to contact me, I'll be happy to turn you on to it and send you some of my favorites. But I've done a great amount of mental training through that app. And so you can't control the thoughts that come into your brain. You can't.
Mm-hmm.
You can purposely and intentionally put good input into your brain on a regular basis. We all talk about keep away from the negative stuff, but we don't talk enough about intentionally listening to good input on a regular basis. That's super important. You can't control the thoughts, but with working out, you can actually learn to control you turn the thought around. Okay. Working out in your brain with the meditation. Okay. You learn to control. And so that's the mindfulness and the observation. Okay. Without that, you don't have any awareness. These thoughts are going back in your mind, they're controlling it. We live our life 95% from our subconscious.
Yep.
Okay. So if you don't have the awareness, you don't even know. I mean, years ago when I did it ran me. I reacted to everything. I was totally overwhelmed and had a lot of problems with it. But now I understand I can learn how to control that. I'd invite anybody to check it out on my YouTube channel. I had a really great, perfect example of this. It was like June or July 2021 when the Rolling Stones came. It was the first concert they had after COVID. And I had immense isolation for quite a while. I hadn't been to a concert like that in years. And I went, and I was okay when I first got there. But when the music started and 10,000 people around me, I got really overwhelmed. And I had two thoughts come in my brain. Holy cow, I don't know if I can handle this for 2 hours. And I feel like going home right now. I mean, it was the beginning of the concert.
Yeah.
And I know from my studies that you have to catch that thought within 20 seconds tops before a story gets attached to it. Okay. And then it gets a lot harder to climb out of the rabbit hole. All right. So immediately when it happened, I was like, oh no. And I just started breathing really deep, which is a huge breath work is very, very important. Probably just important as meditation. I was breathing. I was talking to myself. You're safe, Michele. It's okay. This is an iconic moment. This is incredible. Look at this experience after all we went through, and here we are together. And I was moving to try to get the energy out of my body. Within 2 minutes, I was totally fine for the rest of the night.
That's awesome.
I made a video on my YouTube channel about it because I would blow me away. I knew right away that it was just my training kicked in on autopilot. And I was like, I never had that kind of control before in my life, ever, in my brain. So like I said, you can't control what comes in, but you can learn to control it. And it just takes practice like working out your body. My channel, if you go to my website, I see this. If you go to my website, mshalin.com, or you just type in Michele Schalin, Mindful Metamorphosis, you'll find it. On the top right, you'll see a little link to my YouTube channel, and you can go there.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing that. If Jamie will be also watching it, definitely make sure you follow Michele. We're not done yet. A lot more amazing things coming up. Make sure you tag your friends though. Share this video. Give her some love. Drop some likes. She's dropping some amazing knowledge for you guys, helping you guys live a better life with mental fitness. And what do you think you've seen for yourself personally that helped your business to personally grown since practicing meditation, practicing breath work? What have been your biggest impactful change since doing this?
More balance, more work-life balance, being kinder to myself, because I really worked on developing, love and compassion and a lot of inner child working, healing and stuff like that. And not only just liking, but really deeply loving myself. Because I think that's absolutely necessary to do that healing, to treat yourself better. If you don't really like yourself, you don't think you're good enough and all that, you don't treat yourself good. It's like if you had somebody you didn't really like that much, it's harder to treat them good, than a person you absolutely adore, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you're a good person, you'll treat them good, but you know what I mean? It's more effort, And so it just comes naturally to take care of myself more. Downtime that I never gave myself before. Just a lot more balance and time in nature is so important for your emotional and physical well-being, spiritual well-being. It's important for everything. And, being able to be more authentic, because I like myself and I'm comfortable, and I don't have to, we all have roles we have to play in our life, but I don't have to, put on a face and be somebody else because I'm too insecure, I'm not comfortable and confident or insecure with myself, I used to do that and put on a face. And no, I was a good actress, so nobody knew. Now it's comfortable and it's authentic. And when you do that, your vibrational frequency, we're all energy and we have frequency in our body, and our whole body is frequency and energy. And you raise your vibrational frequency when you're more authentic. They say they used to think love was the highest, the energy of love was the highest frequency. But now with a recent study, oh, I forget what it's called, they've realized that authenticity is higher vibrational frequency, which makes total sense. And that authenticity was the most important thing for your well-being and your health, everything. Well, think about that. The more comfortable you are with yourself, you're going to be in the rest and restore parasympathetic system more often. You're not going to be in flight and fight as much because you're just who you are and you're comfortable with who you are. Your body's more at peace and it's calmer. And that just makes a lot of sense. Of course, you're going to be more authentic, and then you feel more calm and you feel more at ease in being more vulnerable and taking risks and following dreams and things that you want to do in your life. You know what I mean? And whereas if you don't have that, you're scared to do all those things and you don't live the life you want.
That's so powerful, and I think it does speak a lot of volume of how important it is, especially in this now new society, to be yourself and to be authentic and like let yourself shine. Because everyone can copy you. You are you for a reason, and people need more of that.
Yeah, and we're taught we're conditioned to do the absolute opposite. And if anybody hasn't seen it already, a big influence of me was Brene Brown, and what made her famous was the YouTube video, The Power of Vulnerability. Fantastic video. If you've never seen, it's a TED Talk, and that made her famous. It went viral and boom, she was famous. And she talks about the double standard we have in our belief around vulnerability. When we see other people do it, we're like, wow, they're so brave. That's incredible. They inspire me. But if we're afraid to do it because we're like, oh no, we're going to be judged. We can't do it. You know what I mean?
That's so crazy. So you spoke about following your dreams and your passions. What advice would you have for entrepreneurs out here who listen to this to get started on their journey to become entrepreneurs, to do their business, to be themselves?
Well, the mental training and the things I'm talking about will help you feel more comfortable, help you heal. Everyone's got emotional baggage, right? Help you heal and get more confident to be more vulnerable and follow your dreams and take risks, and you'll have less fear in life. Okay. I mean, fear is a part of life, but it's a part of the human emotion. I think it's also delegating when you can, paying a real close attention to your balance, your work-life balance, because I understand when you're an entrepreneur, this is your baby. You got to work hard sometimes. All right. But you got to really make it a priority. And it looks like you're doing it for sure, from what I see, with your family. And time alone, because otherwise you're going to destroy your relationships and you're going to damage your children. So it's that serious. So those things I think are supremely important. And like I said, delegate whenever you can so you can have that balance and just, work on yourself, continue to work. It's a lifetime process. A lot of people we have this kind of fantasy story in the back of our mind that life should be easy and fair all the time. And when we have problems, which I call challenges, we get mad. We get mad and angry. This isn't fair. Why is this happening to me? And then we make our suffering more. Okay, we suffer more. I'm feeling this way, and I don't want to feel this way. I shouldn't feel this way. So now we've just exasperated what we're going through. Okay, when you're able through work to change the perception, that's everything. That's why having control of your thoughts is a total game changer in your life, because you change your perception. You change your perception, that's everything in your life. You get to when you change your perception, when you change your perception, that life is not meant to be easy. Okay. As soon as you understand that, life becomes easier.
Yeah.
And that the challenges, not problems, challenges are not a part of your path or your life journey. They are the journey. They are the path. Going through them, they're there for reasons for you to grow and learn lessons. That is it. That is the human experience. When you switch the perception and look at it like that, then you'll be happier in your life. And I'm not saying I do it perfect all the time. Okay. You can't. And that's the other thing I think is really important for everybody, entrepreneurs or anybody, to not expect that you are going to do this, and then now you're going to arrive and you're going to feel great all the time and you'll be perfect and you'll never, go on the, fall back or anything. And I shouldn't even say fall back, because it's not going backwards. Growth is not an incline.
Mm-hmm.
It's a dance. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
It's a dance. And we have neuron connections in our brain of old thinking and behaviors, and they become very strong. And as we're practicing new thinking and behaviors, we connect, we grow new neuron connections. That's neuroplasticity. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't know this before. Okay. Now we know the science knows this. And then as you practice that more and more, the new thoughts, the new behaviors, that gets stronger. And the neuron and the old ones get weaker, but they're still there.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And they can come up. Like what happened to me when I was writing the book. I had this really great balance, and all of a sudden I brought all that on, work, the extra job, I'm writing the book. And I felt the difference. And I was like, oh my God, I'm in workaholic mode again. And I was like, oh, this is horrible. And I was like, okay, you can do this for 6 months, apply everything, all your practices, et cetera, right? And I thought that after I got it done, I could just flick a switch and I go back to normal. No, it did not happen that way. And I was like, oh, I had the tendency to keep on, to go do something and be busy like before, because I woke up those neuron connections. Okay. And I was like, oh, wow. And I knew right away, I didn't think I was crazy or anything. I wasn't getting down on myself or anything, because I understood it. I was like, okay, I know what's happening.
Mm-hmm.
I gotta be patient and get back into the groove. And it took a few months for me to really watch myself and observe. And the important thing is, don't criticize yourself. It's an observation. Eckhart Tolle talks about being the watcher. Okay.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Watching yourself and go, oh, okay, I see what you're doing. We're not doing that anymore. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Let's pull it back this way. And you just kind of treat your mind, and the same thing in meditation. Okay. When you wander or you start, getting off track a little bit, you just treat your mind gently, like you would a small child or a dog. Okay. You're just like, it's okay. Bring it back here. All right. And just be loving and compassionate to yourself, and understand the best, I think the best gauge of progress in your growth is how fast you get back on track.
Mm-hmm.
Don't expect that you're not going to get off track.
Mm-hmm.
The only way you're going to stay, on an incline like this is if you live in a monastery, you're practicing constantly and you don't have technology around you, it's just wholly unrealistic. And people put so much stress on themselves to expect that they're just going to have these practices and then all of a sudden arrive. Now, the human experience is about challenges and growing. And then that's why, and then it's even heightened challenge now with how we live in the modern world and technology. This is not going away. It's going to amplify, especially with AI. And, we need these practices more than ever to help us understand, instead of thinking we're going crazy. You know what I mean? Why can't I do this right? Everybody else looks okay. Well, everybody's struggling. Okay. Yeah. We're just all putting on a good face.
Yeah. Social media is just one big highlight reel. It's always one big highlight reel is social media. Right. No one's so bad size and what happened to them. Like for me, I was homeless as a kid from 18.
You need to write a book. I've been hearing about your story. Yeah.
I have 3 books. I have.
Oh, you do? Oh my God. I'm sorry.
As well.
Oh my God. That's great. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah. Think about your life. How many times in your life, how long did it last where every aspect of your life was great?
Yeah.
Your work, your personal, physical, and everything was just, oh, it's awesome. That's temporary.
Mm-hmm.
There's going to happen. Something's going to happen. That's right. Because if everything was perfect all the time, we'd never grow.
Yeah, and we kind of bored of it.
We have no incentive. Yeah. That's right. We wouldn't appreciate the joy of things in our life if everything was the same all the time.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't have the challenges. We wouldn't appreciate the joy. That's just life. That's true.
Yeah, you gotta embrace it. You gotta embrace that. And then you talk about neural connections and making new synapses and all of those things. I also think that most of our followers on this podcast are entrepreneurs, people living in Austin, people working jobs and careers. How has the connections of people helped you in terms of networking?
Well, dramatically. I mean, the connection with you, here I am on your podcast and people are seeing me, I've always been, I am naturally, I naturally a networker. I'm naturally a communicator. Naturally, I'm a Gemini. I think, no disrespect to you, you're an amazing networker, but I think women tend to have easier time networking because we're brought up that way. We're brought up to network, be in community more with our girlfriends and that, and share more, you know what I mean? And ask for help and stuff like that. A lot of men in our culture are treated, independent. Don't ask for help. I got to do it. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's more natural for women. So I have that, upper hand. But I've always been really big in networking. I remember years ago, I got into, when I first started my website services company in 2004, I was in Lockhart. And back then I had to tell people why a website was good because it was all brand new.
Yeah.
And I had a friend tell me, you go to San Marcos and join BNI, Business Networking International, and they'll want your services. And that's what I did. And I learned even more about networking. I was trained for about 8 years and held a lot of leadership positions and stuff, and really got into understanding that, especially smaller entrepreneurs, find other people that have different businesses that you can share clients. You have the same clients. Like if you have a realtor and a mortgage guy and an AC dude, a roofing guy, okay, they're what they call a power team in BNI. Yep. You know what I mean? Or an event planner, a hairdresser, for weddings, caterer, or something like that, But, people that, like right now for my website services company, I try to connect with business loan officers, business bankers, business coaches, because they're same clients I do business websites, So, and then with my mindful metamorphosis, anybody that's dealing with, different types of people that want to grow and they want to, learn how to have the control of their body and in their mind. So yeah, that's a big one. Just connecting with people that have, same kind of demographic clients, and just getting out there and meet people and being open to opportunities all the time to be able to be in an interview and a podcast or any kind of speaking engagement or anything, and just be yourself. When you're too busy trying to be professional, I mean, you can see some of my videos. Okay, I'm too trying to be professional. I'm stiff. Okay, I'm too stiff. When I'm just myself and I relax, I'm a lot. People like the way I communicate because people like vulnerability and they like people when you're more authentic. They can feel it when you're trying to be perfect. You know what I mean? And it just doesn't come off as good. Yeah. So that's super important too. And that only comes from, working on yourself and growing. You can put on a face, but it doesn't really change your life in a very profound way until you do the deeper work.
I love that. It's so powerful. Guys watching this now, I know Michele because of networking. We got connected on social media. Now we're talking. Now we're here.
See?
People.
Yeah. Yeah. It's very exciting. I mean, I'm very passionate. I've always been super passionate about anything that happened in my life that helped me in a big way. I like to sing it from the rooftops, and anybody that that helped me, provided me with a service, a product, or anything that I think was great, I tell everybody about it. I'm not about getting online and complaining about somebody. No, I don't do that.
Same.
But I definitely love to praise people, and I always want to give them reviews and stuff like that and share. Like the vibrating plate I was telling you about. Vibrating plate's great, So I love to share anything.
I do more of that now at my gym too, because I see it all the time. Then one time, never knew how powerful it was, but now I know. So if those watching this, do vibrating plate.
Vibrating plate, Life Pro Mini. Ask me about it. Go to my Facebook. If you go to my Facebook personal page, you'll see I have a post on it. It's fantastic.
Can't wait to try it out. And then what is your next steps for mindful metamorphosis? Where do you see this going this year or next 5 to 10 years afterwards?
It's interesting. I've always, because of our culture and what we're taught, and been working for myself for 20 years, I take advantage of the November and December when it's a little slow in my business and get ready and get planned and get out the gate at the beginning of the year and all that. And this was the first time ever that I didn't do that, because the natural order of things is to hibernate, right? To get deep rest during the winter. But we go against the natural order, right? And so I decided for the first time to do that. Okay. And it was really good, but it was uncomfortable. It was very uncomfortable because it was outside my box. That's another thing that I tell people all the time, entrepreneurs or anybody, do things outside your box, outside your comfort zone. That's how you grow the most. And, like when I grew crazy amount in Spain, because that was like crazy outside my comfort zone. And so I did some, real deep rest. And so I'm kind of rolling it out slow coming into, January. And I ultimately I plan on creating some online courses
Mm.
that will be some of it will be repurposing information I shared in my book. And then I'm always into, learning. I just love learning. And so there's new things that I've learned that I would have put in my book if I had known it then. And so, more of those kind of things. So, workshops and stuff like that. I'm also going to start recording some meditations with my voice and, having little packages like that, audible meditations, because it's funny because I just recently I don't know, as I get older or something, or I talk different, I don't know. I never in my life had people tell me I had a soothing voice.
You do. It's beautiful.
But like now, I swear to God, it's hilarious. It's like the last 4 years, people will tell me this. And I'm like, oh, I never had anybody tell me that. And so, yeah. So when I meditate, I talk slowly, very much purposely, very slow. So I plan on doing that too. So those are two things for sure I want to do.
Let me know. Every night, my wife and I listen to like this mindful meditation. There's like a woman talking in the background about manifest your dreams and so forth. So kind of brainwash the subconscious while we sleep. So you have yours.
Yes. Oh, I've been doing that for years.
Us too.
Yes, I've been listening. I can share some channels with you. I've been listening to affirmational stuff throughout the whole night, all for years. It started in Spain, and I still do it all the time. And I share that kind of stuff with people all the time. Also really cool is if you write your affirmations down personally, your personal stuff, make a big Word document out of it. Okay. All different areas of your life. And then you put on some nice little soft music, meditational music in the background, and you record it.
I've heard
with
that.
Your voice. Okay. So basically it's powerful with your own voice. Okay. And mine is like 15 minutes long. And I have a gratitude list like that. I also have a pep talk like that, the stuff that I struggle with. Okay. And it's my voice. And I listen to it and I change it every few years. And it's very powerful. And I'll listen to it like when I get up in the morning, or if I'm feeling a little stressed, I'll put it on, while I'm driving or something like that. It's amazing. I'm telling you, the more good input, people will say, oh, Michelle, I tried affirmations. It didn't work. And I was like, how long did you try for?
Yeah.
2 weeks. I'm like, okay, we see repetition is how your subconscious learns. That's how you reprogram your brain. We obviously see it works. We feel it in our life negatively, right? We have stuff that we have adopted as a real belief in our life because we heard it over and over again. Okay. Whether it be from the culture or from our parents unintentionally or whatever. Okay. And propaganda, we see how it works. It works great. All right. You say it over and over again, people believe it. So it's the same way for affirmations. Positive stuff works just as strongly as negative. We're just used to doing the negative more. So yes, that's a great practice. Good for you guys.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm super mindful as well. Having my upbringing, did many years of working on myself, pushing around meditation.
I know you've changed dramatically. Fantastic. You got a great story.
Thanks so much. You as well. And then, what would you tell yourself in the past? Speaking of great stories, you had your life.
Advice I give my younger self?
Yeah, your younger self.
Meditate. Learn how to meditate and slow down. Be kind to your body. Be kinder to your body. I was hard on my body. I worked out a lot, but I was just too much. I didn't have enough balance. Be kinder to your body, because as you get older, you're going to be a lot happier. And learn how to meditate. Don't be in a hurry. Love yourself more and do the work that it takes to be comfortable with who you are, so you won't fall into dysfunctional, dynamics in relationships, work or personal, where you're doing people pleasing and you're getting resentful and, or you put up with behavior that isn't healthy, and you're putting up with a behavior from somebody that's disrespectful, or humiliating or whatever, just unhealthy. And we know a lot of terms now that we didn't know before: gaslighting and projecting and blah, 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 blah. You know what I mean? And it's been going on for years. Okay. I had it in my life for years. I didn't know what it was. And it definitely caused a lot of problems for me. And so, yeah, just really educate yourself on that, and learn to love and be kind to yourself and be slower, and it's gonna be okay. Everything turns out fine. And also understand that life isn't meant to be, it's not meant to be fair and easy. Okay. When you learn that at a young age, you'll go with the flow more and roll with things, and not react as much, and just pause and go, okay, how can I deal with this? I don't like what's happening. I can't change it. So how can I change the way I look at it so I can handle it better? Okay, that's key. And that control of your mind doesn't come without the training. I don't know if you're familiar with Eckhart Tolle.
Yep.
Okay, I'm a big fan. And he talks a lot about stop resisting what exists. If you can't change it, I mean, if you can change it, great.
Yeah.
Okay. But if you're in a situation that you cannot change and you're resisting it, that's insane behavior. You're making yourself suffer more.
Yeah. I love that. So powerful.
Learning that at a young age is very wise, make you very wise at a young age. And so will meditation. There's a man I know, he started meditating at 15 years, and he's like 31 now. And he is one of the wisest young adults that I've ever met. And I met him when I was in Europe on my book tour. I reached out to him because I had listened to his intermediate Spanish podcast for 3 years.
Wow.
And I said, you've helped me a lot. I want to give you my book in a free breathwork class, because I was doing it in Frankfurt, Germany. And we met and we became friends. And he's amazing. Yeah.
About making sure your inner self is also beautiful too, not just the outer self.
Yes.
And I think when it comes down to like your future and what you're doing now, what's one unpopular opinion that you have that you like to share?
That everybody has an addiction.
Good one.
Yeah. People will be like, no, I don't. I'm like, because we like to be on our high horse sometimes and look down at somebody else. Well, why are they doing that? They know it's bad for them and this and that. And there's no shame around it. There's no shame around addiction. Any addiction, no matter what is substance, behavior, anything, you can get it around everything, right? The definition of an addiction, Gabor Mate talks about that. Great doctor, by the way. He's amazing. I give him a shout out in my book. He talks about, if you have a behavior where you're engaging in that gives you short-term relief, but the long-term benefits are damaging, and you know that, but you can't stop, that's an addiction. And addictions typically come from unhealed trauma, and it's a coping mechanism. That's all addictions are. It's a coping mechanism because you don't know how to process your feelings, because you weren't taught. There's no shame around it. But to understand, like, I know I have an addiction with my phone because it glams on and I really watch it. And I mean, I don't think, in this case, I don't think it's unhealed trauma, because technology just.
Yeah, it's designed that way.
Yeah, exactly. So, but I'm like, okay, let's put it down. Let's walk away. I have a real, because I understand. Yeah.
Well, this has been such a mindful experience. There's so much thanking myself for having you on our podcast today. What is one last thing to share before we hop off of this?
What? One last thing? What?
One last thing I want to share with the followers and watchers of this before we hop off today.
That you can do this and you're not alone. If you want to change your life, and oh, I don't want to change my life so much. I just want to feel better. I want to feel more joy. I want to feel more gratitude. I don't want to feel overwhelmed. I don't want to feel, I have no control and a slave to my mind and everything. You can learn how to do it. Okay. And you're not alone. Everybody's struggling with this, whether they're talking about it or not. And a lot of people are talking about it now. There's going to be more and more information and books and all kinds of stuff, documentaries and stuff about it in the future, for sure. But you're not alone. You can do it. And you just have to get support, but don't try to do it alone. Okay. You can have a person like you and your wife are into it. Great. When you have your partner helping you, it's like a workout buddy, right? And, if you have a friend, if you have a community, a coach, if anybody needs help, you find a coach. I do this work. I work with people privately. I create customized stress management programs for businesses and organizations. If you, find somebody that you can resonate with that can help you. Trying to do it alone is hard. Okay. Reprogramming your brain and learning how to do this stuff is one of the hardest things you'll do
Mm-hmm.
in life. Okay. But the benefits are mind blowing. Okay. You will feel so much better and you're never going to be in total control, but you'll feel more, you'll have more control over your thoughts in your mind, and you will feel much better, and you can focus on gratitude and joy more instead of what you're lacking and getting stressed out about. And you can learn, okay, I'm doing it now. I'm refocusing. Because like I said, you can't control what comes in your brain, but you can learn to turn it around. It does not help to say, I'm not going to think that way. No, you have to refocus. You have to say, no, let's think about gratitude. No, what's my intention? Be present. That's how you do it.
That's amazing. Something I learned like a decade ago was like you should spend 10% of your time on the problem and 90% of your time on the solution. So if Michelle was saying it's like, okay, that happened, that came up, you're going through this thing. What can you do to make that not happen anymore? How can you redirect that experience?
Right. And I think it's really important, I know we're getting to the end here. Really, really important I'm not talking about toxic positivity. Okay. When you learn, I have a video on YouTube about this, discern the difference between the crazy negative thoughts that we all have that come into our brain and the feeling of expression that's in your heart. Okay. Because I remember first when I realized that suppressed emotions can cause anxiety. I was like, okay, so I don't want to suppress my emotions, but I want to get control over my thoughts. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And that's what I learned. If I feel a sensation in my heart area, okay, that means I need to express it. I need to scream, cry, whatever I need to do. That's a human emotion. You have to let it come out. Okay. Like we talked about the blockages that all come, you need to have them move through you. Energy work and breath work is amazing for this. But you'll learn to see the difference. You'll feel a sensation in your heart. Is this heavy here? Or is it just my crazy thinking? If you don't feel nothing here and it's just this going around, that's what you can learn to change. I'm not talking about suppressing emotions. That's really, really important.
That's amazing. And then how can all these amazing people find you?
So, well, you can type my name in, Michele Schalin. You see it right there. It's 1L. Or Mindful Metamorphosis, and you'll find me right away. You'll see I'm all over. On my Instagram, M Schalin, Facebook, and YouTube. Thank you.
Oh, I love this picture, by the way.
Thank you. It's funny. That actually it was a very impromptu picture. I was on the top of a float in Key West. And my friend, and I was dressed up as Xena the Warrior.
Wow, nice.
And what I'm doing, she goes, oh, let me take a picture. And I pointed my sword. It's a sword. Some people think it's a microphone, but it's a sword. And it just came out that way. And it was so funny. When I went to Spain, some of the Spanish men would say that it was my Charlie's Angel picture.
That's
so thank you.
This has been my favorite podcast I've ever done. Thank you so much.
Oh, are you kidding me? Oh, so sweet.
So fun. You're an amazing person. I love you sharing. Definitely, guys, go follow Michele. She will help change your life. Get her book. Obviously, connect with her as well. And thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much for having me on, Jordan. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
You're very welcome, of course. Well, then, this is Elite Edge podcast. We bring top players, help you become world class at what you do. Thanks for being here. We'll see you next time. See you at the top.
Bye.